שישמח פוזח אלוהי אלוהי בכל שיבוא 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 בא באמונה שיבוא בביאת המשיח.
Good evening, welcome to the Moshiach Mystery series. So tonight we are going to be discussing more about what it means to live with Moshiach. We discussed in the previous Shiurim, in some of our previous classes, about how we're living in a special time. We're living now al saf ha-Geula, living now on the threshold of the redemption. And therefore the Rebbe tells us that now we have to act in such a way. We have to now act in a way that's befitting the way we should act when we're standing on the threshold of Geula. So just before we get into this idea a little bit more, I just want to clarify that we have to realize, so we've been already standing here al saf ha-Geula, on the threshold of Geula, for many years already. It's been almost 30 years. So, but if you look at things in the greater picture, you realize it's not really that long. In fact, we know that it says in Gemora, "Le'ivri alma elo Moshiach," the whole world was only created for Mashiach, especially as explained in Tanya, that the whole purpose of creation is for dir b'tachtonim, that Hashem should have a dwelling place in the lower worlds, which will be fully realized when Mashiach comes. So really, everything that's happened since the beginning of creation, and definitely since the giving of the Torah, so it's all for this. It's all eventually to lead up to the ultimate goal, which is Yemei Mashiach, the days of Mashiach. More specifically, it says once we went into Golus, the exile after the destruction of the second Beis HaMikdash, so we were working on reaching the third Beis HaMikdash. So we've been in Golus almost 2,000 years. And so in Tafshin Nun Aleph in 1991, the Rebbe told us that we're now reached the threshold of Geula. So the threshold, of course, it shouldn't have to take long, and as the Rebbe said, it's not understood why it's taking so long, but at the same time, la'achar ha'maisa, like we say. In other words, after it already happened, so 30 years it seems like a long time, but in the greater scheme of things, it's not that long. So of course, God forbid, chas v'sholom, I don't want to say that we can push off Mashiach any longer. Definitely, we need Mashiach to come immediately, but as far as understanding that, the unique time that we live in, al saf ha-Geula, we have to look at it in the broader picture, I think. So, what I'd like to discuss tonight is one example of what does it mean to live with Mashiach. In other words, what does it mean that we have to start living the way we're going to live when Mashiach comes? So, one of the things that's going to happen when Mashiach comes is it's going to be a time period of Achdus Yisroel. It's going to be a time of unity among the Jewish people. And we actually had a shiur a while ago about this. So I want to talk about it a little bit more specifically in a sort of a practical sense. So we know, first of all, that during the time of Golus, the Jewish people are spread out over the entire earth. So, definitely in a physical sense, there's lacking a certain level of achdus among the Jewish people. We know that when the ideal state is that all the Jewish people should be living together in Eretz Yisrael, and that's something that actually hasn't existed since the middle of the first temple era, the middle of the first Beis HaMikdash. Once Sancheriv, he sent the 10 tribes into exile, so we didn't have that experience of having all of the Jewish people literally living in Eretz Yisrael. So just the very fact that the Jews are spread out over the earth, that itself is already, in a certain sense, a lack of achdus, lack of unity among the Jewish people. Then there's another thing. Even during the First Temple era, when the Jewish people did live in Eretz Yisrael, there was also a lack of unity. We know that there were two kingdoms. There was the kingdom of Yehuda, there was the kingdom of Ephraim. There was the king who ruled over the two Shvatim of Yehuda and Binyamin, and then there was the king who came from the tribe of Ephraim, who ruled over the other 10 tribes, the other 10 Shvatim. So the very fact that we had two different kingdoms, that itself was a sort of a lack of unity. We know that they didn't always get along. So actually the Navi says, the prophet Yeshaya, it's actually in the Haftorah of Parshas Vayigash. He says that when Mashiach will come, so there will no longer be two kingdoms. The two kingdoms will unite. So in other words, what we see is that there's a certain concept of unity when Mashiach will come. First of all, the fact that all the Jewish people will be gathered in, will all be living once again together in Eretz Yisrael. That's one, and then also as far as the leadership is concerned, the fact that there will be one leader, one Melech HaMashiach, who will be the leader over all the people together. So just in a very basic sense, there will be a great sense of unity among the Jewish people. So now, the concept of unity, is the way it's explained in Chassidus, takes on a whole different meaning. And it really gives us a real understanding of why it is that when Mashiach will come, there will be this unity. And it will also give us an understanding of how to start living that way even now, when we're standing on the threshold of Geula. So we have already discussed many times that how Chassidus explains that what's really going to happen when Mashiach comes is that we're going to experience a different level of closeness to Hashem, a different level of our neshama. We'll experience a higher level of our soul. So what is that level? So Chassidus says that there's different levels of the neshama. So the highest level of the neshama is the level of Yechida. So what's the concept of Yechida? So Yechida, we talked about Yechida, right? So in general, what Yechida is the essence of the neshama. It's the essence of the soul. So nowadays when we serve Hashem, so our relationship to Hashem is very much like that of a Eved to his Adain, like a servant to his master. In other words, Hashem is our king, he's our master, and we have to do what he says. But the truth is that our connection to Hashem is much deeper than that. It's not just that he's in charge of us and he tells us what to do and we have to listen to him, but our connection with Hashem, it touches our very essence. It's who we are. It's who we are. It's so now we don't feel that most of the time. Only at certain times it says is that if a person is faced with a challenge, whether to give up his life or whether to or he'll have to, let's say, convert, God forbid, to give up his religion. So it awakens the Yechida Shebenefesh. It awakens the essence of the soul that a Jew feels that he can't. This is his identity. He can't separate himself from Hashem. So So Mashiach is the Yechida HaKlalos. He's the general Mashiach. He's the general Yechida. He's the one who represents this level of connection to Hashem, where a Jew feels that his very essence is his connection to Hashem. And Mashiach is the one that's going to bring that feeling and experience to every single Jew. Okay, so now this also explains why there'll be a concept of Achdus when Mashiach comes. Why? It says because at this level of Yechida, so just like there's no separation between a Jew and God, Jew is one with Hashem, so too all of the Jewish people were all one with each other. But Hashem is our essence, and that's something that we all share equally. All different, right? It's only one Yechida. It's one. It's just like there's one God, so there's one people, and we're all one. So our differences come when we go into the lower levels of the neshama. So then each person has a different job, each person has different qualities, and so there could be some type of lack of unity. But if we're talking about at the level of Yechida, the essence of the neshama, it's all one. So in other words, Chassidus is telling us that your connection with another Jew is really dependent on your connection with Hashem. Or if you reveal a deeper connection between you and Hashem, so your connection with another Jew will also be different. And that's really what it says in Hayom Yom, in Yud Beis Menachem Av, the 12th day of Menachem Av. It says that when you love a Jew, you really love Hashem. Because in the Jew, there's a part of Hashem. Yeah, so this is also what it says in Tanya also. So in Tanya, based on this, it says it doesn't even matter. It could be that a Jew on the surface, could be, the Alter Rebbe says, could be he's a sinner and he's doing the wrong thing. But it doesn't take away your love from him. Why not? Because the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, in Perek Lamed Beis, in chapter 32 of Tanya, because in every single Jew, there is a nitzutz elikus. There's a spark of godliness inside of him. And no matter what, that's something that's his essence. It's something that never goes away. And even when he seems to act the contrary, but it doesn't change his essence. And when you realize that that is the essence of a Jew, and that's the essence of yourself, that's the essence of your connection with Hashem, so then you'll love every single Jew no matter what. Then you become one. So, Chassidus, so in general, Chassidus, it says there's a te'ima. Chassidus is a taste of what we're going to experience when Mashiach comes. So what Chassidus is telling us is this level of achdus, the unity that we have, the unity that all Jews share in common with each other and with Hashem, that comes from the level of Yechida. This is not something that we have to wait for Mashiach, to wait for Mashiach for in order to experience. This is something that you can tap into now as well. Through learning Chassidus and through thinking about these things and being aware of the essence of who you are and who the other Jew is, you're able to experience a little bit, you're able to taste a little bit of this feeling of achdus with another Jew. So, maybe just there's a story, maybe just to bring out this idea a little bit about how this is the concept of Mashiach, right? The Mashiach is going to see the essence of every Jew. There's a story about how there, in one of the tzaddikim, one of the students of the Baal Shem Tov, and one of the students of the Baal Shem Tov students. So there was a Jew in his area that was creating a lot of problems for other Jews, and there were other people, other Jews that were very bothered by this other Jew, and they wanted that this tzaddik, they asked that he should curse this Jew. Because they felt that it was just too much, he was just causing them too many issues. So the tzaddik went on to tell them the following. He began to describe to them what would happen when Mashiach would come. A whole long description about how Mashiach's going to come, and he's going to gather all the Jews, and they're all going to come back to Eretz Yisroel, and all the nations of the world, says, they're all going to think they're going to realize how they all had tortured the Jewish people, and they're going to look to try to give some type of present to Mashiach. That's what it says in Tehillim, Yevilu Shai Lamoira. It says they'll try to bring a present for Mashiach, and they're going to try to figure out what is the proper, what kind of gift can we give Mashiach. Can we give him silver and gold? He has enough silver and gold. He doesn't need any of that. So what they're going to come up with is this Jew. There's going to be this one Jew that even after Mashiach comes, so he still hasn't left his Golus, he hasn't left his exile, and he's still living over there amongst the Goyim, amongst the nations. And they're going to take this one Jew and they'll bring him as a present to Mashiach, and Mashiach is going to accept him and receive him with such joy. So in other words, the point of the end, so this will conclude the story, and so the tzaddik said, and it's this Jew that you want to curse. So this is an example of what it means to live with Mashiach. In other words, the tzaddik, he saw that, look at this Jew. Right now, you look at him, you see, oh, he's a sinner, he's causing us so much issues, we can't stand him, curse him, get rid of him, right? We don't need him. And this tzaddik had a different look. He said, look, what's going to happen when Mashiach comes? Mashiach is this is going to be the present to Mashiach. Mashiach is going to just be so happy to receive this Jew. Why? Because Mashiach will be able to see the essence of the Jew. He'll be able to see who the Jew really is. So this is something that we don't have to wait for Mashiach to start experiencing this. This is something that even today we can already start living this way. Looking at another Jew, the way Mashiach looks at a Jew, to see the essence, see his Yechidah. And the best example is, look at the way the Rebbe looks at every single Jew. How did the Rebbe look at every single Jew? No matter who they were, every single Jew, the Rebbe always saw the essence of the Jew. He saw his connection to Hashem. And that really was behind every single thing, all the miftzayim, all the mitzvah campaigns the Rebbe started and sending out all the shluchim and everything. What's behind all of that? It's this Geula. It's this Geula perspective. It's this Geula understanding that really every single Jew has a deep connection with Hashem. And even if he doesn't, even if he isn't aware of it, but really deep down, every single Jew, like the Rambam says, really wants to do all the mitzvahs. He wants to be connected with Hashem because that's his essence, and it's only his Yetzer Hara that overcame him, or his ignorance. It's a Rambam that in Hilchos Gerushin, the loss of divorce, the Rebbe quoted it so many times that it says that if it says that it's talking about a case where a person has to give a get, has to give a divorce contract to his wife, that's what the halacha mandates in that situation, and he doesn't want to give it. Now the halacha is that a person, in order for the get, for the divorce contract to be valid, it has to be given l'utzonei. It has to be given willingly. If he doesn't give it willingly, so it's not valid, right? It's not valid. That's right. So it says, however, it says kofen oisei ad sheyeitzani. It says you force him till he agrees. So the question is, how is that valid? So Rambam says that since every single Jew wants to be a Jew, roitzehu liyis miyisrael v'lasis kol hamitzvos. He wants to be a Jew, he wants to do all the mitzvahs. It's only Yitzrei who should takfai. It's only his Yetzer Hara that overcame him. So once you force him to do it, really that's what he really wants. So that's the way to look at a Yid. That's the way to look at another Jew. To see the essence of the Yid. See the essence of the Jew, how really his most inner desire is the fact that he wants to be a Jew and he wants to be connected to Hashem. And you don't need to force him, exactly. And maybe to take it a step further, Rebbe points out that it says the whole cause of the Churban Bayis Sheni was sinas chinam. The reason why the second temple was destroyed was because of baseless hatred. Yeah. So, right. So, now the Rebbe makes a simple calculation. He says, so if the whole cause of exile was the baseless hatred, so if we uproot the cause of exile, and we replace the baseless hatred with what the Rebbe calls avas chinam, baseless love, so to say. What does it mean, avas chinam? In other words, loving a Jew not just for a reason, because you found something about him that you like, but because you realize he's a Jew and he's one with Hashem just like you. Then that uproots the whole cause of exile, and automatically the Geula will come. And then the Rebbe takes it a step further. The Rebbe says, now the truth is, now that's just an explanation of how through Avos Yisrael that'll bring us to the Geula. But then in Shabbos Parshas Matis Maseh, Tafshin Nun Aleph, in the end of 1991, the Rebbe takes it a step further. He says that that it's not just that through Ahavas Yisroel, through Achdos Yisroel, through unity, that will bring the Geula. But since we're already standing al Saf HaGeula on the threshold of redemption, we can already taste that Achdos that comes from Yechidah. And that's what we've been discussing until now. And that's really the whole idea of Chassidus, that Chassidus is a taste of Mashiach. So of course, what comes out is that really since the revelation of Chassidus, since then we've already been able to taste this type of Achdos we're going to experience when Mashiach comes. It seems only that now the Rebbe is making it, he's defining it very clear, and he never, before in Chassidus it was never defined in such a way. It was never defined in such a way that now we're tasting the way it's going to happen when Mashiach comes. But now, it wasn't so specific, it wasn't so clearly defined that now that we're standing on the threshold of Geula, so it's not just this is something, just a concept and somewhere, so to say, some lofty idea that's, somewhere in the future. But this is something that we have to realize it's here, it's an imminent reality, it's happening, and we're going to experience this literally soon. And therefore, we can already start experiencing that now. So maybe just to take it a drop deeper, it's already an even deeper idea that the Rebbe in Tafshin and Beis, so the Rebbe started explaining about how really the truth of the whole concept of Mashiach, it's even deeper than Yechidah. It's a very deep concept. So Yechidah, usually we say Yechidah, that's the essence of the neshama. The essence of the neshama is that the neshama has this inseparable bond with Hashem. But the truth is, says the Rebbe, even that's not the deepest level of the neshama. The deepest level of the neshama is as the Zohar says, Yisroel v'kutshu bricha kul echad. The Jewish people and Hashem are literally one. That a Jew is, so to say, one thing with atzmas hamahos, with the essence of Hashem. Which obviously this is something that we don't experience at all now. It's something that, right, as long as we feel it's a separate entity, so obviously we can't experience how we're one thing with Hashem. But this is something that's going to be revealed through Mashiach. This is the true concept of Mashiach. The deepest level is to reveal this idea. But even this idea, the Rebbe says, we could already start experiencing now. And the last Farbrengen that we merited to hear from the Rebbe on Shabbos Parshas Vayakel, Tafshin Nun Beis in 1992, the Rebbe spoke about how a Jew, then it was Shabbos Parshas Shkolim. We read about how every Jew has to give a machzas hashekel. Every Jew had to give a half shekel to the Beis HaMikdash. So the Rebbe asked, why is it that a Jew has to give a half shekel? He should give a whole shekel. Why give a half shekel? So he said, because a Jew has to feel that without another Jew, he's not whole. You're only a half. In other words, it's not enough just to feel that my essence is the same as your essence, and therefore I'm willing to give up everything for you and have Mezeritch nefesh and self-sacrifice for another Jew. But you have to feel that literally you're one thing with the other Jew. Without him, you are not complete. You're like two halves of one whole. You have the same essence, and that's the real concept of Mashiach. It's an even deeper level where you literally realize that we're literally one thing with Hashem Himself. So this is obviously a very high level, and it's something that we're only truly experience when Mashiach comes. But what the Rebbe is telling us is that now that we're standing on the threshold of Geula, and we already see how Yidden are returning to Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe spoke about how Jews are leaving Russia and coming back to Eretz Yisrael. So we see that there's this ingathering of exiles that's happening before our eyes. So that already, so to say, can arouse us and give us that feeling that there's a certain level of unity that's being accomplished over here. That's already a taste of Mashiach. And so this is just one example, very important example of what it means to live with Mashiach. That if you realize that what Mashiach means is that it's going to be a time when it's going to be revealed how every Jew is one with another Jew, and we're all one with Hashem. So, and you realize this is happening, and this is a reality now. So you could already start living like that today. And through that, through starting to live with it and experience it now, that itself is what helps usher in the actual time period of Mashiach himself. When Mashiach comes in actuality, and we get to experience this in the full reality. Living with Mashiach, exactly. So, B'ezras Hashem, in the coming Shiurim, I would like to talk about other ideas of what it means to live with Mashiach. But this is just one important point about the concept of Achdus Yisroel, of the unity of the Jewish people, starting to live the way we'll live when Mashiach comes.
Moshiach,